Here's Mike Johnson joining me ahead of Free Agent Frenzy. Very exciting for us at the network. You ready to chat for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so about free agents?
I feel like we can do the A and B blocks. You know what the best part about this day is that's different than the trade deadline is that we know there was going to be a bushel of signings right away. There's going to be action, which we appreciate. We're not going to be out there tap dancing like on the trade deadline at times.
Yeah.
So that is what's good news about here. We expect lots of stuff to go down, and a lot of it going right, especially when you trade for the rights to guys, they can sign right at the stroke of noon. So expect some of those deals to come through right away.
Now, the Leafs have already taken care of some business. Now, they've acquired the negotiating rights for Chris Tanev. Mm-hmm. They have already signed Timothy Liljegren. And then our mutual friend Darren Dreger sending out this tweet, which I thought was very interesting. The Leafs are still in on Oliver Ekman-Larsson. If the Leafs were to get Tanev done, and if the Leafs were to get Oliver Ekman-Larsson done, the Leafs have got Liljegren done. You like that? You like that decor for the Leafs going into next season, Mike Johnson?
Yeah, I like how some of that pieces together. I would prefer probably one more player, but again, you see the prices that like left-handed relief pitchers, right-handed defensemen. Like that's what you want your children to be in play pro sports because the defensemen, especially the right-handed defensemen, are going to get paid big time tomorrow, and they already have some of them. So. Yes, I think Chris Tanev is such an important piece if they get him done.
Right.
Because he is on paper, and you look at it, the perfect partner for Morgan Rielly. What Morgan Rielly does well, Chris Tanev needs help with. What Chris Tanev does well, Morgan Rielly needs help with. And they could really, 1-on-1 would make 3 between those two guys. So that would be significant to get the most out of Rielly, and then you solidify your first pair. Oliver Ekman-Larsson just won a Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. He has played further up in the lineup his entire career. He plays a little bit of bite, surprisingly, as he's not, as you saw with Florida. And he can fill up that second role with Jake McCabe. And then Liljegren can be on the third pair as an insurance guy. Or part of my spidey sense are thinking 2 years at $3 million, that's a perfect number to trade a player at. If something else comes up that you need to flush that money out, because now he's affordable and he's under control, which acquiring teams like. So I like that D. And it also leaves a little bit of money to address the forwards.
Right. And potentially maybe a backup.
And you need one of those too.
Might need one of those as well. We're going to get to a bunch of the other Canadian teams, but I do want to talk about Steven Stamkos because I'm truly fascinated by this.
I never thought we'd be here.
No.
I thought, you know what, posturing, and I get how Tampa does hard business. That's okay. Yeah. That is the nature of business. But I never thought we'd get to the point where they would honestly find a way not to do it, put it together.
Yeah.
But they clearly are.
Does it if you're Stamkos, if I'm Stamkos, I take this personally.
How do you not?
Because I scored more goals than Jake Gensel did that last year, didn't I?
There is that.
I mean,
I had 100 points years ago.
I get that I'm older, but I also won this team 2 cups. Right. I was a #1 over draft pick. I'm a hugely popular person in the community. I live there year round. I get the age, but there's all sorts of reasons that other franchises would have gotten this deal done by now.
That's exactly it.
Right.
What makes this surprising is that most every other franchise with a iconic, greatest of all time type player would figure out a way to get it done, even if it puts them in a not perfect financial position. But when Julian Brisebois is saying, Victor Hedman, we're working on a deal for him, we're going to sign him as soon as we can.
Right.
Sam was like, where was this last year for me?
Yeah.
Where was this? You find a way to trade Sergachev. Okay, great. There's my money. Stinks we lose Sergachev, but you got. Oh, but now you want to trade the rights to Gensel. I'm not saying that Gensel's not a better player than the Stamkos at this particular moment.
Sure, absolutely.
But Gensel's going to be 7 years or whatever. He's going to be $8.5, $9 million. Stammer was not going to demand that, even though his production warrants a contract that big.
100%.
I am very surprised. But with every passing minute, obviously at this point, but also with the moves leading up to what's gone on, there's no way that Stamkos doesn't get to noon.
Right.
And
for free agency.
And if they sign Gensel to a big deal, there probably won't be enough money left over for Steve Stamkos anyways. And I'm surprised, and who knows where he goes. I never really considered that he would be available.
Is there a more ruthless GM? I mean, even trading Sergachev, good defenseman, you're unloading to clear this cap space. Like,
I still don't really get that, though. Sergachev was making whatever he was, 8.5 or something.
Yeah.
But they traded for McDonough.
Right.
Sergachev's better than McDonough.
Right.
McDonough's makes 6.75, and it's not like Nashville retained on McDonough.
So, yeah, what's the logic there? Just good in the room, I guess?
They've won together.
Been there for a few years.
Yeah, and like the emotional part of Sergachev coming off that gruesome leg injury, coming back early, putting his body on the line to try to be there, all that stuff. And it's okay. Like, I'm not criticizing Tampa. it's okay to be ruthless.
Yeah.
It's okay to be just cold, the Patriot way, and just like, whatever, you're not good for us, we're going to move along. That's okay. It's not always normal. But then don't be upset when players do the same thing back to you. Recognize that loyalty is not a two-way street. There is no loyalty with Tampa. When you're no longer good for them, out you go.
Yeah.
So when you have a chance to take it to them, hometown discount, not a chance.
Forget it.
State tax accommodation, not a chance. This is not how this works. Because you're going to trade me somewhere where the state tax is 54%, or provincial tax anyway. So I have no time. It's okay to operate that way.
Yeah.
But expect the players to treat the same.
It's a tough one. I feel like we're going to be feeling the reverberations of
And
this.
Stammer doesn't want to be here.
Right.
He doesn't really want to leave.
No, he absolutely wants. I mean, he came out at the beginning of last season and said, "I'm disappointed negotiations haven't happened." That was a lot from him.
Yeah.
Right? For him to come out and actually say that.
Disappointed he hadn't had any negotiations. There's been no progress.
And as you pointed out, took care of Braden Point, took care of a lot of guys.
So took care of Braden Point, took care of Hagel.
Right.
Took care of Sorelli. All very good players.
Yeah.
But like Stamkos literally had 40 goals this year.
Right.
Point-a-game player, 100 points last year.
I feel like I understood it from Brisebois' perspective last summer somewhat, because you're like, well, maybe it's falling off. It was almost like he was saying, well, then go out and show me what I can do. And what did he do? He scored 40 goals.
Yeah.
So what more could he have done? Nothing.
It didn't matter.
What
he could have done is taken the 8-year, $2.5 million a year contract, which was about 4 times less than he probably deserves.
Insulting. Calgary's been taking calls on Nazem Kadri, no surprise. You, at this point, if you're Craig Conroy, you've got to move that player, don't you?
I think at this, you've come this far.
It's a full rebuild at this point.
There's no point in keeping any high-priced player. Nazem Kadri is a very good player. He will not play for the Calgary Flames, and the Calgary Flames are once again contending for the Stanley Cup. I think Nazem Kadri didn't come to Calgary to be part of a protracted half-decade-long, the rest of your career rebuild.
Right.
So he's still a good enough player. Had a really solid year. At $7 million, he could be a second or a really good third-line player. If you want to eat a little salary, because the way the salary cap's going and the way Calgary's going, they probably will need to retain just to get to the floor, which gives them great flexibility to get more assets, get more good younger players. Yeah. Now, the albatross out in Calgary, of course, is Huberdeau's contracts. That one's going to be harder to move. But Naz or Weegar or Anderson or any of those players will be easy to move. And I think you've come this far. I know you have to have players.
Yeah.
You have to have a team.
Yeah.
But Kadri just doesn't fit where their team is right now in their competitive curve, their cycle. So it makes sense to explore those options.
And, you know, Nazem Kadri, Blake Coleman, guys like that, other teams will want.
Blake
Coleman had a great year.
Blake Coleman could be moved by the end of this interview.
Right, exactly. Let's hope not, because that would make our producer very upset.
Yes.
Kyle would be very upset about that. Okay, so a couple of Canadian teams with buyout potential here. Jack Campbell, this is no surprise.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, sometimes things don't work. I think every team is very hesitant to ever keep money on the books if they don't have to. But they do get some savings. We know they're going to be so tight to the cap the next couple of years. The cap's going to go up, so when they finally have the big penalty and in a few years, it won't be quite as onerous. He probably latches on somewhere as $1 million backup.
Right.
And it probably works out fine for him. And it's amazing, like Ken Holland sails out in the sunset after a final appearance. Like Hyman, unbelievable signing.
What a deal.
Ekholm, one of the greatest trades. But Campbell, like nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
You don't hit all of them. And that was one they
nothing
missed.
that summer with goalies really was, Darcy Kemper. None of those signings really worked out that summer for goalies for whatever reason. It was just a bad.
Goalies are hard to predict.
They're hard to predict. Moving on to the Winnipeg Jets, same thing. Nate Schmidt on waivers for the purpose of buyout. What were your thoughts on that? Yeah.
A little surprising. I would have thought that, especially if Winnipeg was willing to retain a little bit, as they are when they buy a guy out, that he would have had some value around the league. There are teams that need to get towards the salary cap floor with massive holes. Like Nate Schmidt at $3 million. Like there's value there.
There's value there.
Like he will play again next year.
A fifth, sixth guy somewhere.
Third pair guy, great energy guy.
Yeah.
Solid person to have around your team. That one surprised me a little bit. That wasn't quite as obvious to me.
Does it make you think that in addition to the Rutger-McGroarty talk, obviously they're going to have to deal him. He doesn't want to be there anymore. And then, of course, Nick Ehlers, we've been talking about that all year, likely to be dealt. Do you think it's just Kevin Cheveldayoff has something bigger brewing potentially?
I mean, it feels like a table-setting kind of move.
Right.
Because there's no need for it. And the reality for Winnipeg and for several Canadian teams is that getting free agents to come there is difficult.
Absolutely.
And it's not just Winnipeg. You can say Ottawa and Toronto and Vancouver, like all across Canada. That can be difficult. So, trading guys or for guys that you have control of for longer, that's a better way to do it, especially if you're going to trade a young guy like Rutger McGroarty, who, again, will have a lot of value around the league.
I want to talk to you about Shane Pinto. This is a fascinating thing to me. Player that I assume you like.
Very good player, yes.
A lot of people like him. Here's our friend Bruce Garriock from Post Media. Since qualified him. Keep hearing his camp is looking for the offer sheet, Mike.
Love it.
We never get them. We never get the offer sheets, but you see where they want the compensation.
Right.
So somewhere between $4.5 and $6.5 million. Let's just say $5 million. First of all, is that a fair number for Shane Pinto? Would be my first question.
You're probably trying to capture a bit of upside there. He probably hasn't played. Well, he only played half a year last year, but he's a very good player. And if you're going to be a second-line centerman who scores 20-something goals and gets 55, 60 points in the new NHL with a $92 million salary cap, that's a $5 million player, yes.
Yep. Okay.
So that would be okay.
So let's assume the money is fair.
Yeah.
Let's say someone throws a $5 million.
6 years, $30 million contract.
6 year, $30 million. Steve Stamkos in 3 seconds would match that?
Yes.
No?
Yeah. Especially
so what is the point of all?
Well, the reason why Shane Pinto wants this, because he's got to make $30 million from somebody.
Yeah.
And probably he would like it to be Ottawa.
Yeah.
But if you can't get there through negotiations, because he might not have the leverage right now, and given the strange circumstance of the gambling stuff from last year, it's probably hard to go in and say, I deserve this.
Yeah,
I deserve.
That's fair.
So he just wants to find a way to get the amount of money that he probably deserves.
Right.
And so he's hoping the offer sheet might just boost it up, even if Ottawa matches. It happens so infrequently, though, that it's probably not a great strategy to bank on to get there. Although I certainly hope it happens. And if, again, when I run a team with you, we will be offer sheeting people left and right.
Big time.
And even if it.
And we'll fight Brian Burke in any
barn.
We'll
go to the barn with Kevin Lowe and Brian Burke. But if they're older now, we probably could take them.
We got a chance.
Well, maybe not, but so are we.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because even if you don't get the player, you might put the other team in little salary cap distress.
Yeah.
Which then forces other moves that
fair.
may trickle down. So I think it's an underutilized tool that I wish they did more.
Let's hope it happens tomorrow because it'd make it even spicier. We got to end on this one, the Vancouver Canucks. It started great. They were making all these great moves. Then all of a sudden, Gensel.
I think everyone thought Gensel was going to Van.
Everyone thought he was going to Van. Now it looks like he's going to Tampa. Not just that, Zadorov probably not coming back. Lindholm looks like he's testing the market. Is there any level of concern for you? Jimmy Rutherford's aggressive. There's always going to be a plan B. I'm not saying he's putting all his eggs in the Gensel basket, but is there someone else out there that you're like, oh no, they should absolutely take a look at that? Or do you have any level of concern?
Gensel seemed like a really good fit.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the relationship with Tocchet and Rutherford and all the rest of it. Pedersen can play. Let JT Miller play second line center. They're still very deep all around. You get rid of Mikheyev. Lindholm's off the books. Zadorov's off they have all this money.
Yeah.
And again, Vancouver, we just talked about the challenge sometimes of getting players to come here. They need a winger to complement Elias Pettersson. Gensel seemed like a good one. I don't know if there's another one as good as him out there. Like, do you want to go down the Jonathan Marchessault?
Right. Who's apparently in a pretty tough negotiation in Vegas.
He doesn't want to leave, but he's like in the Stamkos situation.
Yeah.
A guy like that would probably be a short-term fix, but no one's going to be quite as good as Gensel seemed to have been. But you're right. Jimmy Rutherford will always have other things ready to go if the first one didn't work out.
Man, this is fun. This should just be the Free Agent Frenzy show.
This is it. We just need some graphics, a llama, Gino somewhere.
Right.
We're good to go.
Some Harveys. We're both sponsored by Harveys. So we could get some of that in there.
Is there ketchup on that?
O-Dog.
We need O-Dog.
Is he ready for tomorrow?
Is
he going to show up?
I think he better be because he's the star of the show.
You're the star of the show, buddy.
Just this show.
Thanks, pal.